So in this video we'll be continuing with standard form, focusing on being able to add and subtract numbers in standard form without using a calculator. Now when it comes to adding subtracting numbers in standard form, it is important that you recognise that if a question appears on a calculator paper or you're allowed to use your calculator, then clearly obviously use your calculator to work these questions out. And the methods I'm going to show you today are basically designed for non-calculator questions. So the first method we're going to look at is basically converting the numbers into ordinary form, calculating the answer, and then converting back to standard form. Now, in terms of the title, there is no official title for this method. It's basically exactly what it says on the tin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk you now through how we do this and the steps and things to look out for. So here we've got two numbers. So we've got 2.3 times 10 to the power of 4. Which if I write in ordinary form is going to give me 2.3, and I'm going to go through the stages of 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 1, 2, 3 zeros, giving me a number of 23,000. And then I'm going to convert the second number, which is 1.52, and here I'm going to move the decimal point 5 places to the right. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to fill the empty gaps with zeros, giving me a number of 152,000. So once I've written these two numbers in ordinary form, the next thing I then need to do is to add them together. Now when it comes to adding together, you want to make sure that your presentation is the most important thing. So make sure that your decimal points and numbers are all in nice neat columns directly underneath each other. Now when we're adding, it doesn't really matter which numbers which number comes first and which one comes second. So I'm just going to do exactly how it's written in this question. Now I've written the first number and I'm going to go backwards with the second number. So I'm going to go 0, 0, 0, 2, 5, 1. It just makes it a little bit easier, particularly when it comes to me presenting this work. So next thing I'm now going to do is add the numbers together, which let's go for a different color. Let's go for blue. So I've got 0, 0, 0, 5, 7, 1. And now this is the actual answer. Now typically when you've got a question where the numbers are in standard form, they're probably going to be expecting you to write your answer in standard form exactly how it's written in the question. So what I now need to do is to convert 175,000 into standard form. So again, I look at the non-zero numbers at the front. So that's 1. Convert that as a number between 1 and 10. So that's 1.75 times 10. And then the next, I need to put my decimal point in the 1.75, and then just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there is my final answer. So the next thing we move on to is another example. So let's have a look at this one here. So again, here we've got negative powers. So again, I'm going to convert this number into ordinary form. So I've got 2.5. This time I'm moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So that's 1, 2, so that's where the decimal point's going to go, and I add my zeros. For this number here, I've got 1.8, and this time I'm going to move the decimal point 4 places, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and realise I haven't got much space. So that gives me an answer of 0.00018, and the number in red is 0.025. Now again, I'm going to be adding those two numbers together. So again, making sure that our decimal point is in the same place for both of those two numbers. So I'm going to start by writing that first. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 1, 8. And we're adding. Now, if you wanted to, you could add the extra zeros just to make it for peace of mind. But when you're adding, it doesn't really matter. As long as, like I said, and I can't stress this enough, presentation is key. Just make sure your decimal points are in the right place, directly underneath each other, and that your digits are all in nice neat columns. Just make it easier for you to add or subtract. So here we've got 8152.0.0. Now I need to convert this into standard form. So I look at these numbers here, and I need to write that as a number between 1 and 10. So that's going to be 2.518 times 10. And this time we're going to go in the opposite direction. So here I've got 1. Let's get a more highlighted color. So here's my decimal point in the A value. So I've got 1, 2. So it's minus 2. And there is my final answer. Again, it's minus because I'm moving it to the left. So let's have a look at another question. So let's have a look at a subtraction this time. So again, looking at this, we've got 8 and we're going to move the decimal point. So there is no decimal point in 8, so I just treat it like a full stop. So I'm going to move it 7 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that's that number. And then I need to write 7.6 times 10 to the power of 6. So that's 7.6. Moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And again, filling the empty zeros, space loops with zeros. So then we need to write the numbers out. So I've got, now the order does make a difference. This number has to come first. So I've got 8 with 7 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then I'm going to write this second number backwards. So I've got 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 6, 7. And again, I'm going to subtract these two numbers away from each other. So just doing the simple subtraction until I get to the 6. I'm going to have to borrow 1, so let's get a different colour. Let's actually put all this in a different colour actually, just to make it stand out. So I borrow 1 from the 8, so that becomes a 10. That then becomes a 9. So 10 take away 6 is 4. 9 take away 7 is 2. And I've got 7. So now what I need to now do is convert this number here into standard form. So that's going to be 7.24. And my decimal point goes there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's times 10 to the power of 7. And there is my final answer. Now, if you're practicing using a non-calculator questions on standard form, adding, subtracting, obviously you can always check your answer by typing it into your calculator. So if you typed in the actual question in standard form on your calculator, you should come up with the answer that you should have. So let's have a look at another one. So here again, we're looking at, now again, let me just do a quick bit of formatting. So I've just recognized that these numbers are not given in standard form with the powers. And that's a lot better. So again, looking at the numbers, converting it first. So this number here is going to be 3, and I'm moving the decimal point to the left 4 places. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then filling the empty gaps with zeros. Do the exact same with this one here. So here I've got 7.3, and I'm moving it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so that gives me a number of 0.000073. And this number here was 0.0003. So then again, making sure order comes into question. So this number's got to come first. So I've got 0.0003. Now, rather than going backwards, I need to, when you're working with small numbers, I need to make sure the decimal point's in the right place. So I've got 4 zeros. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 7, 3. Now, because I'm taking away any empty gaps, I need to make sure I'm writing zeros. So now I can go about doing the subtraction. So I'm going to borrow 1 off here to make 2. That becomes 10. That then becomes 9, and that becomes 10. So 10 take away 3 is 7. 9 take away 7 is 2, and 2. And then just fill in the empty other spaces. So you can see here now, this is my final answer. I now need to convert this back into standard form. So that's going to be 2.27 times 10 to the power of, and I've put my decimal point here, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 places, so it's to the minus 4, and there is my final answer. Again, let me just highlight that a little bit more, and there it is. Now there is another way of adding, subtracting in a more simple way, and it really does depend on which method you get. Now, if the first method makes sense, brilliant. It is a bit more time consuming. Obviously you need to convert it, and obviously you've got to then add and subtract, which again could be an area where you lose marks on silly mistakes. So this is another method that you may want to choose. So, and this is by manipulating the numbers so you have the same powers of 10. So one of the questions that makes this difficult is that you're always dealing with different powers of 10, and that usually happens with these questions. Now typically there'll only be really a difference of maybe 1, 2 or 3 in terms of the powers of 10 when you're adding, subtracting. With multiplying and dividing they might be completely different, but as you can see from watching the previous video or the video that's on multiplying and dividing with standard form, there is an easy method to do it without having to convert into ordinary form. So if you alter the power of 10 by either multiplying and dividing by the other power of 10, you must do the opposite to the a value, which you're multiplying by the powers of 10, by doing the opposite for it to be the same value. So for example, if I have 1.2 times 10 to the power 6, now if I divide by 10, then that means I need to multiply this number by 10 for it to be the same number. So for example, this number here is 1.2, and I'm moving the decimal point 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got 5 zeros, and if I did the same with this number, I've got 12, and I'm moving the decimal point 5 place, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you can see that these numbers here are both the same. So we can actually do some manipulating. Now, because we're not writing our final answer, this isn't our final answer, I should say, that it's okay for it not to be in perfect standard form. And so understanding of you can change the power of 10, but as long as you're doing the opposite to the a value, which is the number that we're being multiplying by the powers of 10, then it will still produce the same number. Now, if I've completely confused you, hopefully let's go through some examples and hopefully it will make a bit of sense. So let's have a look at this particular question then. Now, with this, you can see straight away that I've got different powers of 10. And what will make my life easier is if I had the same power of 10. And again, I'll explain to you why. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rewrite this number here, the second number. So I've got 5.024 times 10 to the power of 6. Now what I want to do is I want to write this as a number where the powers of 10 is 8. And the reason why I want it to be 8 is I want it to be the same as the previous number. Now to get from this to this, let me just get a different colour. Now let's just rub that out. So to get from this number to this number, I need to multiply by 10 to the power of 2, which is basically multiplying by 100. Now what I then need to do is if I'm increasing this number by 100, then I need to divide this number by 100. And I've done that mark there, so let's get rid of it. So then dividing this number by 100 will be moving the decimal point 2 places to the left. So it's going to be 0.05024. And this is now my new number. So now if I then look at 6.3 times 10 to the power of 8 plus 0.05024 times 10 to the power of 8, then what this then becomes, and how it then becomes easy, you might be thinking, hang on a second, how is this a different and easier, potentially easier method? Well, the reason for it is because I can have 6.3 times 10 to the power of 8, and I can have 0.05024. Now if I just get rid of this to begin with and just create a little bit of space, is what I can actually do is just simply add these two numbers together. So what I've got is 42053.6, or you know what I mean in terms of writing this down, and the powers of 8 will stay the same, and there is my final answer. So if we look at this particular question, again what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to converting this number so that it's to the power of 10 to the power of 6. So I've got 2.3 times 10 to the power of minus 5, and what I want to do is I want to get that power to the power of minus 6. So what I need to do here is divide by 10. So what I need to do to this number is times by 10. So that's going to be 23 times 10 to the power of minus 6. So then once I've done that, I can then do the subtraction. So I've got 23 times 10 to the power of minus 6. And in this number here, I've got 1.8. And again, just making sure that I'm writing that correctly, to the power of minus 6. So all I've got to do now is do this subtraction. So again, if I borrow 1 off the 3, that becomes a 10. So that becomes 212 with a decimal point there, times 10 to the power of minus 6. Now from that, what I then need to do is convert this into standard form, which then gives me 2. So if I make this number smaller, so 2.12, I need to make the power bigger, which then gives me to the power of -5, and there is your final answer. Now, as I said, it's all about finding a method that works for you, and if you understand the first method, brilliant, go for that. It's a bit more simplistic, but it does take you longer, whereas the second method you might find a little bit quicker. You don't have to convert, but again, it's entirely up to you which method you prefer. Now, we'll put some practice questions in the description below for you to practice everything you've learnt in this video.